Greetings, my name's Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Aoi Shiro. Now, let's see if we can do something about this Rouryuu asshole, now that I'm on a different path than I was when I last ended the previous episode. When the setting sun had completely started to come down, the sun had lost its bright whiteness, and was about to approach the boundary between the land and the air. The ritual is about to start. By that time, we had reached a place where we could see the sea god's shrine. Like its name, the sea god's shrine was a fitting place for a god to dwell. The flat rock slabs started to appear during dusk. Like the only stepping stones, only when a spring tide was at a low tide would it appear. Until low tide, an ox had been tiered up near the shore, and was now led across a wobbly floating bridge made of rafts. Because of the backlight caused by the setting sun, they all looked like shadows, and I couldn't see clearly, but I wondered if that ox also had its left eye crushed to resemble Matamu, the incarnation of the Oni king. And as we were watching, got the choice this time. Let me look at the flowchart.
進行カーソルを合わせると章台が表示されるわよ。
I'm certain that if I choose to observe this ritual play out, things will play out exactly as before. But just in case there is a slight difference in how events plays out, why don't I just see what happens? We decided to watch the situation a little longer.
進行カーソルを合わせると章台が表示されるわよ。
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm working my way towards there. During that time, the preparations for the ritual continued, and the sea was bathed in red, as if awaiting the sacrificial blood. The sky above had already turned dark. The gradation of color from dark blue to yellow burned into my eyes, excuse me. And then
始まるわよ。
Unfortunately, there was nothing new. But there is this one little fork around here at a little ways back here that I think I'm going to try to get back to after I choose the choice I'm currently at now. Which I'm assuming will lead me towards the true end for Nami's route, maybe? So, let's see.
儀式を止めよう。まだ間に合う。王さん、ちょっと待った。そんな時間。
There was no time left to wait. We couldn't just put our hands in our pockets and watch the situation. The sacrificial ox was at the sea god's shrine, and the person who had brought it there had already disappeared. Stained in red by a setting sun, a person in white was walking in a steady manner across a floating bridge. The priest of Urashima, and also the Nakata priest, Nakata Munetsugu, successor of Nakata Rouryuu, had started walking across. The ritual had already started.
王さん、相手を見て実力が読めないようなら、所詮は二流よ。あのおっさん、強いわよ。私と王さんが束になったところで勝てる気がしない。それでも行かなきゃならないのよ。
In order to stop the ritual, we headed for the location close to the sea god's shrine. Well, if you don't mind fighting dirty, one could hide while one distracts this guy, and then, right when his back is turned, stab him. But that wouldn't be a very, very cool thing to do, shall we say. It would be kind of a cowardly way. But, I mean, if you're looking for the most quick and efficient way to stop this thing, and make sure you get the upper hand on him, well, there you go. The Kazan turned his attention to us, since on the day of the festival, no one would go outside, let alone come to a forbidden place. From the sea god's shrine to the land on Urashima, we faced each other, with the sea separating us.
君たちは
Nikata-san's gaze stopped on Nami.
津波
His tone was hard to understand. Those words were stern, like a hard shell, yet complex. It wasn't a tone used towards a stranger. Tsunami. 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 I did feel as if I had heard those words before. Since I was woken up like that this morning, and we didn't have time to rest since yesterday, it had come to this. Nami was probably without a doubt the person from 8 years ago.
はい。
Nami nodded at the way Nikata-san called her.
お前は変わったか
はい。安姫様の魂に包まれ、夢うつつだった眠りから覚めました。
姫の魂を己のものと取り込んだのか
それはわかりません。確かに私の大元は根方津波でできており、そこに安姫様が残したわずかばかりの記憶が混じった混沌とした状態です。
Nikata and Tsunami. She was a daughter of Nikata Munetsugu, the wielder of Kurukuru, who Natsuni-san and I had visited 8 years ago. Well, if there was ever any room for doubt now as to whether or not this kid was Yasumi's sister, well, certainly isn't now. While the adults had been talking about swordplay, the children had played together. She was Tsunami-chan.
安姫様という存在が消えるときに、根方津波という存在も同時に消えて、新しいナミという私が生まれたのかもしれません。
Nami quietly squeezed my hand, indicating that she was Nami. I returned a squeeze of Nami's hand, indicating that she had also given me courage. And while this had been going on, the last remnants of sunlight had been swallowed up by the waves, as the sun headed over to the other side of the ocean.
そうかしかしお前が不老不死の体と安姫様の魂を兼ね備えているという事実は変わらんのだろう津波いや新たな安姫こちらに来なさい協力を約束するならかつての安姫のような扱いはせず日々の暮らしは普通にできるようにしよう
What's your guarantee?
ちょっとオサ、どうするのよ。
I don't see.
用務辞典よ。
I don't really see running away at this point would really help us out. Because even if we could somehow outrun this guy, there's also Rouryuu and Kaya to worry about as well.
進
So
行状態。カーソルを合わせると章台が表示されるわよ。
interesting. There's a lock here. Meaning, I probably need to make a certain bit of progress first before I can unlock that choice. Even she asked me what to do.
お父さん。いえ、根方宗次さん。こちらからも条件の提示があります。
During a time I had remained silent, Nami had taken a step forward and talked to Nikata-san. If she had conditions of her own, then did that mean Nami had agreed to his conditions?
私の知った正しい知識と照らし合わせ、根方の猜疑の誤っている部分を今後改めていくこと。
過ちだと
根方は安姫を捕らえ、 言霊を封じ、その血肉を奪って使うのではなく、彼女の持つ力と知恵と知識を借り受けるべきだったのです。馬老流、鬼一方言の狂言などに騙されずに。
狂言だと？
それからもう一つ、必ず守ってほしいお願いがあります。彼女、幼い翔子さんには二度と関わり合いにならないようお願いします。
Nami did this in order to save me. And right as I was finally able to form words again.
根方宗次の仇を取らせてもらう。
That sharp, angry voice interrupted my train of thought. Hello, Kaya. The voice that struck my back and made it shiver was definitely that of someone in my memory. The voice of someone I knew. The footsteps got closer, as well as the presence of that person. That person who still remained in my memories had a completely different, frightening presence.
剣が来ました。あれは。
I only saw it for a second, but that profile was... The person came from behind. I didn't even have time to turn around before the person went past me towards the floating bridge. The wind left by the person's passing hit me a moment later.
これは。
The wind had an ominous presence floating about it. Decaying the body in earth, dissolving everything, losing myself. A fretful feeling I didn't understand ran down my body.
剣、剣気が来たか。
Then, this was...
剣の放つ毒気です。運の悪い普通の人なら目にしただけで体や心を壊します。
Quite a dangerous sword. So it seems that my symptoms were really light, since only my teeth were chattering.
いけない。剣を近づけてはいけない。
If the root of the sword and Matmu were the same, if the souls of the oxen resembling Matmu gathered at this ritual place, I looked over at the black wind. Like the voice, that slender, but firm back was something I remembered.
あれは。
Looking at the back of that person, who was clothed in black.
夏姉さ
ん。なんだ、お前はあいつの知り合いか。
When had he appeared? A tall man dressed in black was suddenly standing near us. His white skin and white hair greatly resembled Nami's, but the color of his open, red eye was the complete opposite of hers. However, more than that, what drew my attention was... Unlike his mocking red eye, his left was covered in an eye patch like a mirror, or a water surface, reflecting everything.
残念ながら、ああなったら人の声なんて届かない。
If he was wearing an eye patch, then that meant there was something the matter of his left eye.
お、そっちの小さいのは知ってるぜ。お前は根方のところの。
This man with one eye and white hair was...
石岩白髪の陰陽師、石岩鬼。
おう。
Okay. We're all out here, facing one another. We got their attention. Now what do? On top of the stepping stones, Natsu-Nisan fought with Mikata-san, who was once again cut down. After that, Natsu-Nisan turned into a Kenki and slaughtered him. The surface of the water, which had taken in Mikata-san's flesh and blood, gave off lapis lazuli light and started to swim.
開くぞ。不老来るの眠る瑠璃の都へ至るもんが。
The sea parted. Right now, the gate was starting to open. The The thousand hells within the Imperial throne of that deep-sea abyss started to rise and head towards the opening gate. That gate was a barrier. The purpose of the gate was to seal up things which shouldn't be allowed to come to this place. However, Natsune-san, who became the Kenkei, opened it. It's coming. Something was coming from beyond the gate. It was even more terrifying than the sword.
そろそろ見物が始まるぜ。見たいやつはついてきな。お題はそうさな。俺はビタ戦一問たりとも取らんが、ことと場合によっちゃ魂そのもの取られるかもな。
Sorry, but my soul's not for sale. Abandon all hope. All ye who pass by the gate. Somebody's been reading Dante's Divine Comedy. Well, that was a bust. Let's get out of here. The sun had already gone down, and the ritual, which should have taken place at dusk, didn't happen. The ritual shouldn't have been completed. Perhaps it was a ritual that could take place any time, as long as the Katasen didn't stop it, and the materials were here. And like how Migiwa said, even if we teamed up together, he was an opponent we couldn't win against.
36
I was wondering if the best policy would be to run away for now.
私や長ならいざ知らず、ナミーの足より向こうが確実に速いよ。この距離を隔てるあの浮き橋は相当渡りにくいはず。まあそうだけど、達人の身体能力見誤るとやばいことになるんじゃないの？それなら橋を落として道を断つ。
The distance was roughly 25 meters. It was about the length of the long slide of a pool. As long as one wasn't bad at swimming, it wasn't unswimmable, but... The tides in the Hiroshima Sea were fast and complicated. It also contained sharp, lethal rocks, so it was definitely dangerous. I didn't know about a normal bridge, but a floating bridge strung together by rope would be easily... And right as my brain caught up to my body... Oh. We have a chance to get... Well, looks like we're gonna get distracted regardless.
進行上、カーソルを合わせると章台が表示されるわよ。
You know, why give me the two options to follow if they're not gonna, at least according to flowchart, have any obvious effect on things? But well, maybe it'll be the unobvious. Let's just see.
夏姉さん。
That voice belonged to a person I knew well. Natsune-san. Narumi Kaya.
その声、夏姉さんなの。
I wanted to confirm if that was the truth. I called out in a loud voice as I turned around. The footsteps got closer, as well as the presence of that person. And the person dressed in black who seemed to blend into the darkness. She held a double-edged sword. The bag she carried probably contained another sword as she rushed closer, fast like the wind. With longer hair than mine, clumsily tied up in a ponytail, as if it were in the way, she was the Natsune-san in my memory.
Kenki!
At the sound of Migawa's voice, I looked at the object Natsune-san was holding. Though the object was white as bone, I got the impression that the light around it was distorted and muddy, covered in darkness. And the person who wanted to rush past me noticed my gaze and turned to look at me. Yo! In the moment our gazes met, she gave a look of astonishment.
夏姉さん、なっちゃんなんでしょ。まさか
もしかして翔ちゃん。
She had an unbelievable look on her face, as if she had seen a ghost. I'm sure I must have also looked the same. After all, until this moment, I had thought that Natsune-san had been killed by Nakata-san.
夏姉さんこそ生きていたの？生きてはいないのかもしれない。ナルミカヤとしての私はすでに死んでいるのだから。翔ちゃん、それよりも。
Another option.
よ、進行上カーソルを合わせると章台が表示されるわよ。
Okay, so... I'm not sure which one's the right one here. I'm gonna go with my gut instinct and say it's the bottom.
夏姉さん、手にしている諸刃の剣は神さえ葬る神よの呪物。
四天の力奪った剣。
あなたは
剣気かや。ひとまず理性はあるみたいだし、話も通じるみたいだから、細かいことは後にする。そいつは後できっちり慰謝料込みでのしつけて返してもらうとして、ひとまずこの場は逃げるが勝ちかも。
翔子ちゃん、それを儀式の場に近づけては。
分かってる。
I didn't know the true purpose of the ritual, but I felt we couldn't bring the sword near the ritual left behind by the Senki Ganki.
今は儀式よりも剣をどうにかするのが先だと思う。夏姉さん、話は後でできるから一緒に逃げて。
Also, thank you for not cutting me down. Thanks to Migawa's quick thinking, the Nakata-san was slowed down. It'd take him some time to catch up, but this was his home ground. In addition, we had to keep pace with Nami's stride, so we couldn't gain much ground. The sun had gone down, and in the forest where darkness had spread, there was 1 drop of red, 2 drops, 3 then. Those weren't the red flowers of the Tokusaki no Tsubaki. So those Rouryuu weren't under Akaya's control after all. Probably Rouryuu then. Those trees had already scattered. The red color resembled the harsh light of a bicycle reflector. Those were...
オサ、来るわよ。
ナミ、頑張って。はい。それにしてもこんなにたくさん。これやっぱりマタムの手下だったりするわけ？
私はカッパ式神説を推してるけどね。
According to a story that Migawa knew, a Tengu god was said to have blown life into straw dolls, creating a type of Rouryuu. In that story, there were 2,000 Rouryuu. Son Goku from Sayuki also breathed life into his own fur to make many replications of himself too.
だったらやっぱりネカタさんが使ってるわけ？
本名寺から祭儀を学んだ古い神職なんだから、それぐらいの技残ってるのかもよ。
右輪は？
私はダメね。見て切るだけ。おばあなんかは得意だけどさ。
The Rouryuu emitted ghastly screams as they chased after us.
追いつかれるわね。翔ちゃん、私が迎撃するからその子と先に逃げなさい。え？大丈夫。このペースならすぐに追いつく。
You calling me slow? Natsune-san turned around.
ここでまた行方をくらまされても困るしね。
Migawa also turned and chased after her.
Sit!
Calling Natsune-san the Kenkei, I thought Migawa was going to strike Natsune-san, but instead, she killed the Rouryuu attacking her. and the Rouryuu that then attacked Mikiwa from behind.
危ない。
The sword of Natsunisen howled, The tip of the sword swung in a semicircular arc to its side. The blade made an afterglow. The Rouryuu which touched the sword's white arc. 1, 2, 3. In a flash, they turned to ashes.
なんてデタラメ。さすが真剣。
An attack from Mikiwa or me would start with the feeling of hitting something like bone, and then the skin would start to tear. In other words, after receiving a fatal blow, they would turn into some black swirl like mud or rain clouds and disappear. However, the sword that Natsunisen swung went through the Rouryuu like a hot knife through butter. Just the heat radiating from the hot steel was enough to make the butter dribble and melt. The sword started to have some sort of black mist swirl and wrap around the blade. It's wearing down on you, isn't it? Letting out a painful moan, Natsunisen held onto her shoulder as she let the sword fall to the ground.
夏姉さん、やられたの？違う。剣が急に暴れ始めた。
ちょっとあんたら、8年ぶりの再会かもしれないけど、悠長に話してる場合？まったく、なんで私が切りに来た鬼を守らなきゃなんないわけよ。
Because life just has a thing with irony, Mikiwa.
切りに来たの？勝ち目はないのに？
闇討ちでね。
そんなことより剣は私が。
In any case, it was an important item that could not be handed over to anyone but a trusted ally. That's why I reached my hand out. Careful, you don't know how much of an effect this thing will have on you.
翔ちゃん、今のそれに触っては。夏姉さんだって触ってたでしょ？
Yeah, but Kaya's not human, Shioko. Not
なんとも
anymore.
ないの。少しだけ変な感覚あったけど。
Oh? I'm fine? That only lasted for a moment.
まったく、長は鈍くて羨ましいわ。
鈍いって。
こっちなんて、さっきから頭痛とめまいと吐き気のフルコース状態だって。悪いけど、あんまり近寄らないでくれない？
いいけど。じゃあ、私が先行するわ。ナミ、悪いけど両手使うから。はい。
I wonder if Nami would also be affected by this. I pondered that for a moment, but that was just the first stumbling block.
こんな！
The double-edged blade was much heavier than the half-kilo bamboo sword, and I swung it around like a top, using centrifugal force. If I swung downwards, I had to fight gravity to lift the sword up again, so I thought it was easier to swing to the side. Using the weight of the weapon, there would be more power in swinging it vertically, but I didn't need to worry about that. Because even if the tip of the sword just happened to graze the Rouryuu, they would definitely turn to dust. A cursed item from the age of gods that could even bury a deity. Right now, I was holding the crystallization of such terrifying power in my hands.
そんなことより先頭だった人、あたしらどこに向かって走ってたわけよ。
島に剣を置いてちゃいけないんでしょ？
了解、踏石方面ね。
It had probably happened without me noticing, but a small gap had opened up between Nami and me. Several Rouryuu had grabbed hold of Nami and lifted her up.
翔子ちゃん、剣を持って島から離れて。もう右輪さんのところは安全じゃないかもしれないけれど、とりあえずの封印なら。
翔ちゃん、行って。
おさ。
And then, I alone ran off.
どこで道を？
I thought I shouldn't bring the sword into the former Tokusaki no Tsubaki forest, but maybe I should have made a detour. The forest suddenly gave way, and my field of vision opened up. Up ahead, there was only the evening sky.
こんなところで
If I'm going to be caught, I wonder if I might be brought to the same place as Nami. I held the sword and glared. And then, I fell off a cliff. Don't tell me I just found a wrong end.
おいお主、目が覚めたか？
Hello, Rouryuu. Glad to see I haven't reached the wrong end yet. And seriously, some of these nicknames you come up with. Pale complexion. The moment that voice woke me up, my synapses snapped back together, and I recalled what had happened before I blacked out. As I was escaping with the sword in hand, I fell off a cliff.
ナミは右側ラス姉さんは
知らんよ、足は知らん。
As I eagerly sought an answer, the person who didn't know about anyone else mercilessly waved her hand and stepped back.
お主以外のことなど知る由もないし、知らぬ連中の名を並べ立てられたところで、一体何をどう答えればいいわけだ？
Fair point.
だいたい、わしはお主の名さえ知らぬのだぞ。
So, you're pale complexion. I'm not exactly tan, so, what word should I use? Who cares? I wondered about the identity of this person who possessed white hair and white skin. But before that, where exactly was I? Well, you're in a cave. Since I could hear the sound of the waves, it shouldn't be too far from the ocean. You could also say that there was a great deal of things I myself didn't know about the situation.
翔子ちゃん
Even though I had to hurry, I still needed to adhere to proper manners when asking a question. Calm down. Calm down. I needed to calm down. Using the same basic method that I employed when concentrating with a bamboo sword in hand, I took deep, abdominal breaths.
助けてくれてありがとうございます
If I rushed at a time like this, I'd go in circles and become worn out. Anyways, the first thing to do was to thank this person.
私は幼い翔子と言います
本当はお主もどうでもよかったんだがな。まあ、剣のついでだ。
剣
The terrifying divine sword that Yasuhime-sama had warned couldn't get near the island, and which was breaking Matumu's seal. The cursed item from the Age of Gods in my hand was one that I could entrust only to a few close allies. This person wanted
お
that.
主が固く握りしめておったのでな。腕か指を落として回収しようと思ったが。
Well, thanks for not doing that. I suddenly became cautious and my body stiffened as I re-examined this person who didn't have a normal appearance. She looked really young. At about 145 centimeters in height, she was shorter than even Momoko, and about the height of someone in grade school. But her expression, mannerisms, and words gave her an air of cunning that was inconsistent with how old she looked. More than her splendid garb, her too pale hair and skin, and her blood-red eye. What attracted my attention most was the eye.
あなた左目
One eyelid remained closed. The left eye gave her splendidly graceful face an unbalanced look, which sorely stood out.
気になるか？気にならないなら放っておけ。気になるならなれろ。わしは常にこうだからな。
赤眼白髪の陰陽師 赤眼鬼。
わしが赤眼鬼だと？
Well, yes, even though I know you aren't, but Shoko
赤
is.
眼の陰陽師というとあやつか。鬼一方言馬老流。
She threw away her calm maturity as she became infuriated, just like a little child.
あなたは何者？わしはそうだな。剣の守手だ。
Funny, I thought Migiwa and her clan were the guardians of the sword. The guardian of the sword.
剣の封じが破られたので、眠っておったところを起こされたのだ。
Oh? From what I heard about this, from what I heard about the Senki Ganki, it wouldn't have waited for me to wake up, but would have just taken the sword. Even if it required using such unsavory methods as what she had just alluded to. If she were an ally of Migiwa, who had changed into a ninja-like uniform, she might wear an anachronistic kariginu.
我が名は琥珀。
琥珀？
わしの名だ。二度と老流などと間違えるな。それで翔子、何があった？ふん。
I explained what had happened. Kohaku-sen grunted as she placed her hand on her jaw.
その場で食ったり八つ咲きにしたりはせずに、生きたまま連れて行ったんだろう。大方、生贄にでも使うつもりじゃないか。
Either that or they're using her as bait.
もしくは、安姫様がいないと儀式にならないとな。どこへ行く？
根方さんの家に。
お主は根方宗次があの海猿どもを刺激していると思っておるのか？いくら下等な式神とはいえ、奴らを作るのに必要な技はただ二重の首を切り落とせばいい簡単な猜疑とはわけが違う。わしのように器用でなければ剣と術を両立させるのは難しいぞ。あの海猿どもの操り主はロウリュ馬老流という男だ。
Well, I guess that pretty much confirms who the puppet master is. It's not Mikata-san?
そいつはどこに？
あやつは
According to Kohaku-san, who had snuck into the Mikata mansion and read some old documents, the ritual took place underground. From the countless caves on the western end of the island, we searched for a cave that was an entrance, as we went down and down.
何この岩？光ってる？
Like guiding lights, rocks giving off a faint blue phosphorescent glow lined the sides of the cave.
進行状態のカーソルを合わせると章台が表示されるわよ。
The rocks had geometric whirlpool designs, carved in them by someone as they clearly looked artificial. As we headed further, we reached a corridor that looked entirely man-made. Perhaps the drainage wasn't good, or the ocean entered from some place, because the road was filled with water up to the ankles.
気負ったな。
After Kohaku-san stopped, I also followed her and stopped. During the short time when the waves calmed down, the sound ceased.
何がですか？
As I asked, she used her chin to point towards further down the corridor. There was a sound of water splashing, which was not due to the reverberation caused by us. The short spacing between strides gave the impression of something short, while the splash of water indicated a large fleet. These were...
毛量？
We were, after all, heading to what was enemy territory. It was to be expected that we would be welcomed like this. I could distinguish between them, whether they were living here or were guarding the place, the more you were blocking our way.
それでどうする？
Well, we gotta fight our way through, yes. There was only one thing to do, of course.
ものか？
I was going to save Nami. Swinging the sword, I mowed down the Rouryuu as I literally cut a path in order to continue forward.
おい翔子、
何ですか？
お主、それだけ剣を振り回してよくも平気でいられるな。
そんなこと言われても。
お主、本当に人間か？
線引きによっては怪しいですね。
I do wonder if I'm not human, then maybe I'm the same thing as Kaya. That's the only thing I could think of. I still don't know for sure. I'm still kind of unsure about that little detail. After all, I was...
私は一度死にかけて安姫様から命をもらいましたから。
安姫様だと。
好きな人と同じ時代を生きようと竜宮の残を食べたんだそうですよ。
安姫、竜宮の安姫、まさか。翔子、そろそろ祭殿に出るぞ。
Our target was close. Here we are again. We were no longer in a passageway, but in a large room that I didn't believe could have existed underground. The room was surrounded with stones, giving off phosphorescent light, really making it look like the Dragon King's palace. The waterways were about 2 meters in width, dividing the room into 9 parts. In the middle of it was an island with a pedestal on top. The pedestal consisted of thick circles of gradually decreasing width, stacked on top of each other, which made it look like a pyramid. Like the walls, whirlpool patterns were carved into it. At the top of the pedestal was not a disc, but a rectangular altar. And lying down on that altar was...
Nami!
That was probably where the sacrifice was placed. Nami was lying down on top of a stone altar that looked like a bed. There he is. On the opposite side of the altar was a tall man. In the blue light of the room, his black clothes made him look a little hazy. He didn't look at all like he was going to take good care of Nami. His gaze shifted from Nami, who was on the altar, to us. Considering us nuisances, he bantered.
客なら岩倉の牛切りを見に行きな。こっちは見せ物じゃねえぞ。
I disagree with you, good sir. In fact, I think this is an infinitely more interesting sight. He knew about the Nakata ritual, but he was not Nakata-san. At first glance, he appeared to be quite a young man.
翔子、あれがrouryuuだ。
rouryuu。
この島にくだらん猜疑を根付かせた陰陽師。鬼一方言とはあやつのことよ。
あれが赤眼鬼。
つむっているだけのわしとは違って、ほれ。
The man's left eye was blocked by a silver eye patch that sharply reflected the lapis lazuli light given off by the room.
久しいな。rouryuu、バrouryuu。
直接会うのは何百年ぶりかと思うが、お互いまだ生きてたようだな。
800年を生きる体に誰がした？
はは、俺だな。俺がした。俺が作り変えてやったんだよな。
承諾を得ずに勝手にな。
どうだ。なかなか便利だろ。
ところが、お前のこさえたこの体、何かあるたびに長い眠りを要求される。実際のところ800年は生きておらん。
そいつは悪かったな。何せ800年も昔の話だ。その頃はまだ完成してなかったんだ。今ならもう少しマシな体にしてやれるぜ。
なるほど。その二重の娘、その肌と髪の色、お主が作り変えたのか。
That also explains that mystery. The color of her skin and hair were the same as Kohaku-san. The color of her skin and hair resembled Rouryuu's. The color of her skin and hair was different from the Kadetsu Nami.
ねかたの当主が残の肉をご所望でね。さすがの俺も人魚の肉は持ち合わせていなかったからな。
Nami was changed into an Oni by the work of this man, Rouryuu.
そのネカタの当主ネカタ宗次はどうした？
奴なら死んださ。死んだとも。俺が殺してやったからな。
I was just about to ask, was that your handiwork? And well, sure
そんな
enough.
ことよりもだ。ずいぶん昔に仕掛けた仕掛けに結構な力が溜まっていてな。お、これはあれだ。家宝は寝て待って。あ、いや、棚からぼた餅。そしてご苦労なことだ。俺のところに剣まで持ってきてくれるとはな。
おめでたい頭だな馬老竜。剣がここにあるからといってそれを手に入れられると思うのか馬老竜。剣の力が強いほどそれを担い手から奪うことが難しくなるという必然をどうやら失念しているらしい。
I don't know, I wouldn't underestimate this man. Because someone tells me that he's quite a capable fighter.
ましてやわしもいるのだぞ。それで剣を奪おうなどと肩払いたいわ。
2対1とでも言いたげだな。
お主が使う海猿などは物の数にも入らんわ。
確かにあんまり役に立たねえよな。
Rouryuu gave a wry smile as he looked around.
まあ、天の時、地の利、人の輪で言えば、地の利は俺に分があるわけだが、来たれ我が矛、流撃よ。
Rouryuu stuck out the palm of his black hand. In front of it, something started to gather there. That indeterminate shape stretched, twisted, and while I watched, changed its shape into a three-pronged halberd. You could attack him right now, you know, instead of just standing around like idiots waiting for his weapon to manifest. Rouryuu gripped a three-pronged halberd in his hand.
どこから？
くだらん手妻だ。そこいらへんに溶けている水を奴の血をかくに寄せ集めただけだ。奴は自称海縁に住まう恵比寿の王だからな。その程度の水芸は造作もないだろうさ。それで老竜どうするつもりだ？まさかその娘の身と引き換えに剣をよこせなどというざれ言を言う気ではあるまいな。
さて、虎姫はともかくとして実際に剣を持ってるそっちの娘はざれ言と流せないって顔してやがるぜ。
翔子、分かっておるな。翔子、
せっかく一緒にこんなところまで来やがったんだ。
As Rouryuu continued his sly laugh, he held the halberd in reverse hand grip and raised it into the air. Then... Oh, fuck.
その憂い、俺がこうして立ってやったぜ。
You're gonna die, my friend. You're gonna die very painfully. I'll see to that. He thrust the three-pronged halberd down above Nami, who was lying on the altar. The longest point of the trident pierced Nami's chest. A second later, the prongs on either end pierced her arms. And then, as if it had fulfilled its duty, the trident that Rouryuu held returned to being water. The water diluted Nami's blood, which overflowed from the altar and flowed into the middle of the waterway.
老竜、貴様何を？
おいおい虎姫、お前の方こそ寝ぼけたか？問いただすことなど何もないだろう。
Get ready.
生贄を前にして
We're about to go against a
妻子
demon
のする
ball.
ことは一つしかないだろう。この娘ネカタの人形の力をもらうのよ。
ネカタの人形だと。
ああ、人形だとも。必要なのは玉寄りとしての体だけだったからな。だから長持ちするように2と技でもって作り変えてやったのよ。さあ、そろそろこごって形をなすぞ。
By the time I realized it, the interior of the sanctuary was overflowing with miasma.
黒い正気。
あれはマタムか。
Not to move in Nami's body.
進行上カーソルを合わせると正体が表示。
Nami's body. Let's see where this leads. We had to do something about that. We had to do something before it completely recovered its body. There wasn't any time left. However, I rushed towards Nami's body. I ran all the way up to the altar.
翔子ちゃん。
Nami was still breathing. Her hand, which was a little cooler than mine, and it always felt nice to hold, was quite a bit colder than normal. The soft feel of her cheek was the same as always, but it really had become much colder than usual. In exchange, the red water that was flowing from her was warm.
翔子ちゃん。ナミ。ナミは傷治せるんでしょ。力なら私がいくらでもあげるから。
If my blood could turn into power, if she needed to replace the portion that had left her, I could give her that much in its place.
翔子ちゃん。自分の傷は治せないみたい。ねえ、翔子ちゃん。また会えてよかった。
Nami's eyelids closed. Nami's body turned colder than when I saw her for the first time by the sea. The color of her skin was whiter than that at the time.
Nami!
And unlike that time, she would never open her eyes again. That's it? Oh? Kaya route. Seal 2 has been unlocked.
環境
Oh!
設定を保存するけどそれでいい？
So I was right. I had to play a little bit of the routes that are currently available in order to unlock others. Let's try Matanu.
マタム復活させるものか。
I clenched the sword in my hand. I calmed my ragged breathing caused by Nami's condition and raised my fighting spirit to combat the stiffness caused by the miasma. I held the sword aloft as I headed towards Matanu. If this was a cursed item from the Age of Gods that could even bury a deity, then I thrust into it. Even if Matanu was the crystallization of the grudge of the Oni King.
なんてね。そんな無茶やりやがって。
Well, I will admit, you had me fooled for a second there. For a second, I thought I actually did something you didn't expect. The sword had been as white as bone. Starting from the tip, which had pierced Matsumu, it gradually became stained and black. starting slowly from the hand that held the sword. A black power invaded my body.
翔子
剣に耐えられるわけねえよな。
And then, I ceased to be Usana Naishoko. Looks like I'll need to make a slightly different decision somewhere else. No idea how much of a knock-on effect this one decision will have, but let's see. Let's try stopping the ritual.
分かってる。あの儀式を止めないと。
Using the power and form of the sacrificed oxen as sustenance, Matamu might even revive. The Tsubaki that had kept Matamu sealed had already reached their limit. When the surface tension of a pool of water had reached its limit, just one additional drop would cause much water to overflow.
翔ちゃん、儀式を止めればいいのね。夏姉さん。
She dashed off with unbelievable speed from a dead stop, and crossed the floating bridge to arrive in front of Nikata-san.
何をしに？
償いに。果たせなかった約束を償うために。
Natsune-san tried to stop the ritual and cross swords with Nikata and Munetsugu. Huh. The scene gave me a sense of deja vu. It made me feel sick somehow. Huh. 8 years ago, the result of the fight between Natsune-san and Nikata-san was also...
さあ、受けるがいい。
やめて！
シャー！
Nikata Munetsugu swung vertically to the side. I could see what would happen. A red Tsubaki blossomed and fell. Like a Tsubaki flower, Natsune-san's head. A red pomegranate ripened and fell. Like a pomegranate, Natsune-san's head.
ツバキ。
A red spray of blood gushed and fell. Huh, like I thought. And then, Natsune-san became an Oni. This scene gave me a sense of deja vu. Oh. Wholly different ending. Guess I might as well see what happens at this point if I don't mention her.
それは言えない。
For me to say that Nami was Yasuhime-sama. He was really asking for too much to not tell about such important topics and still ask for help. However, Mikiwa was an Onikiri, and Nami wasn't a normal person, so...
ま、いいけどね。
There was nothing else to talk about, so we headed to the sea god's shrine, the sacred place where the ritual would take place. Absolutely no variation whatsoever. Well, I'm pretty much exhausted all my options from where I was on the flowchart, that being towards the bottom, so I thought maybe it'd be a good idea to go all the way back from the beginning of Nami's route and start trying some different options here. And the first one I could think of that came to mind was going to see Nami immediately. If this doesn't have any kind of noticeable knock-on effect through the rest of the route, I don't know what will. So that girl is a ghost, huh? It's true that she felt different from a normal person, but it wasn't an eerie feeling like in a ghost story. But if she really wasn't human, Yuki Onna hides itself as an icicle, and the little mermaid disappeared in the bubbles. Like a vision of the blue kingdom beneath the waves, called forth by the moonlight, it would soon disappear. Let's see where I am on the chart.
進行上、カーソルを合わせると正代が表示されるわよ。
Wait a minute. There is a little additional path, but no, I think that's probably for another character's route, so I'm just going to continue. But that girl also disappeared at the same time as when the spell dissipates at dawn. That thought made me uneasy.
みんなが着替えてる間に私が様子を見てくるわ。
I knew it was just an idiotic, groundless fear, but I couldn't leave it alone.
それじゃあ着替えたら境内に集合。一応用心して綾代はランニング休みなさい。失礼します。
Hello, Sensei.
あら、幼いさん、おはよう。
おはようございます、葵先生。
In the room where the girl was placed, Sensei was in her usual mode of dress. And also, the girl was still there.
先生がずっと見ててくれたんですか？
まあ、先生が唯一の大人の女性ですし。
言ってくれれば私が。
いいのいいの。その格好、幼いさんは今から走りに行くんでしょ？
はい。
じゃあこっちは私に任せてくれていいから。先生も合宿中は一緒に走ろうかと思ったけど、今朝はパスすることにするわね。
それがいいと思います。せっかくなんで砂浜を走るつもりですから。
じゃあ相沢さんもお留守番ね。
When we're at our normal pit place, Yasumi accompanies us on her bicycle. We didn't bring it with us. Even if we borrowed one, riding on sand would be harder than running, and impossible for Yasumi.
朝食の用意をしておいてもらいます。
あら、マネージャーらしい。
それから綾代も体調が良くないみたいなんで、休みと一緒に残ってもらうことにしました。
そうね、無理しない方がいいと思うわ。
ところで先生、
何かしら？
ゆうべこの子部屋の外に出たりしました？
あれからずっとこのままだけど。それがどうかしたの？何？
綾代が女の子の幽霊を見たとかで。
あらあら、幽霊？それで体調崩したの？
本人も半信半疑ですから、幽霊が怖いって騒ぎになってるわけじゃないんですけど、一応髪の長い女の子だったそうですから。
なるほど。正体不明なだけに一番怪しいと。
いえ、別にそういうわけじゃ。
The reason I came rushing here wasn't because of Aoi Shiro and Yasumi's condition. It was because of a worry that couldn't normally happen, but was too embarrassing for me to say.
とりあえず先生の知ってる限りだと、その子寝返り一つ打ってないわよ。もちろん席を立ったりもしてるから、絶対にとは言えないけれど。
やっぱり関係ないか。
ここで寝ている体はね。桜井さんが見たのが本物の幽霊なら、この子である可能性は捨てきれないと思わない？もしかしたら脱婚してる最中なのかも。
And clearly that idea excites you.
脱婚？
魂が抜けるで、生き量とか幽体離脱とか聞いたことない？
I've experienced it firsthand.
抜けやすい子が稀にいるのよ。寝てる間に無意識にとか。ドキュメントじゃないけど、源氏物語の六条の見やすどころとかがその典型的な例え話よね。
その場合の葵の上と違って綾代が恨まれる筋合いはないと思うんですけど。
Sensei looked like she had a carefree thought of, we share the same name.
それはまあそうなんだけど、恨みつらみ以外の原因だったりするかもしれないし、手とか足とかの部分特定だけど、自分の体を探して回る幽霊の怪談話は多いじゃない？見失った体を探して一人一人、とりわけ髪の長い子の体を改めて回っていたとしたら、桜井さんの髪は群を抜いて長いし、相沢さんも結んでるのをほどくと結構長いわよね。
やめてくださいよ。 朝からそんな怪談話。
はいはい。わかりました。
It was bad luck.
それで幼いさん、長話になっちゃったけど、時間の方は大丈夫？ほらほら、部長さんが遅れたら示しがつかないわよ。
Whatever, Teach. Okay, we've got that out of the way, so I guess what I should try doing is maybe did everything I did before to reach where I was on this route and see if maybe an option or two will open up somewhere along the way. Okay, you know what? On second thought, now that I'm here at this point, I kind of also want to see what would happen if I forced her to sleep. Because looking at the flowchart,
カーソルを合わせると正題が表示されるわ
it
よ。
looks like it could loop back to this one point. I don't know. I just want to. I guess I just want to experiment and see what happens. Trying more than just one different option. And I mean, if it just leads me to more bad ends, then well, I mean, hey, progress is progress, right?
ちゃんと食べて、ちゃんと体が動くようになるまではダメよ。
I'm gonna get to your good end sooner or later. You can't. Oh. I pried away the girl's hand and stood up. Then heard the sound of something falling down on the futon behind me.
ちょっと大丈夫？
Though since she had fallen on top of the futon, she should be okay. Okay, got this out of the way.
そう考えると
進行カーソルを合わせると正題が表示されるわよ。
Let's get to our next
スキップより
choice.
進行状態の把握。カーソルを合わせると正題が表示されるわよ。
Let's stop you this time.
ちょっとナミ、やめなさい。そういうことはやめなさいって言ってるの。
Using my uninjured arm to hold onto Nami's head, I pulled out my finger. Nami looked dissatisfied and tried to reach my finger again, but I held it high up away from Nami.
ダメダメ。確かに唾液には殺菌作用とかあるけどね。そういうことはしちゃダメよ。
It wasn't even me licking my own wound. Having someone else lick it was too imprudent. If I had been sick, or if there was something unhygienic on the knife, just thinking about it was frightening.
翔子さん、救急箱持ってきました。
見つからなかったの？
いえ、やすみちゃんがマネージャーの仕事だと言って聞かなかったので。翔子先輩、大丈夫ですか？
Why does your voice clip sound off to me right now? Yasumi. Yasumi walked with unsteady legs and leaned against a column.
怪我はしてるけど、あなたよりはね。
Jeez, what was with everyone?
進行カーソルを合わせると正題が表示されるわよ。
Next.
スキップよ。
So.
用語辞典よ。
Oh, I can't skip?
進行上カーソルを合わせると正題が
Okay, I guess we're on a new scene then. I grabbed hold of Yasumi, which was the other person that Nami was attached to, and we all entered the bath together. Yasumi didn't have much experience traveling, so she brought quite a bit of luggage, including plenty of shampoo. I borrowed the shampoo and started to wash Nami's hair.
先輩どうしました？お湯で絆創膏剥がれちゃったんだけど、そうしたらシャンプーが傷に。
The blood had stopped oozing out, but there was still a wound from where I'd cut my finger with the knife at dusk. The surrounding skin pulled at the wound, and and was unexpectedly. I wondered if I could prevent the strands of hair from touching my wound as I washed her hair. I wonder, Nami, you gonna try to lick my wounds again? Just imagine it would be painful, and the empathetic Yasumi soon had a pained expression on her face.
悪いんだけど、ナミのシャンプー変わってもらえる？いいですよ。
Yasumi smiled and ran her fingers through Nami's draped down hair.
私の髪もこうですから、長い髪を洗うのは慣れてますしね。
What hair would increase in weight, and the naturally wavy hair would straighten out, displaying its true length. Now that I think about it, though the color and length were different, the makeup of their hair might resemble each other.
助かる。ナミちゃん、こっちに来て。
Nami nodded and headed over to Yasumi.
用語スキ進行上カーソルを合わせると
Ended up
正
being
代が
shorter
表
than
示
expected.
スキップもう血も止まってるから
Blood's
あ
already
とは
stopped.
風に当てておいた方がいいし
The blood's already stopped, and I thought it'd be better to take it off before taking a bath.
用語辞典どの用語を調べた
No,
い
no,
わ
no,
け
no, no, I don't want this
用語
useless thing.
進行上カーソルを合わせると正代が表示されるわよ
The good thing about being cut with a knife is that the wound would close nicely, and all that's left is the thin line.
そうですね痛くないならその方が
Hearing that, Migawa held her cards in place with her pointer finger while looking over them with a mean, smiling expression.
カードの縁を突っ込まないように気をつけなさいよ
Since my grandfather's job involved poking people with needles, I wasn't susceptible to that story, but it somehow sounded painful.
ああごめんごめん姫さんいじめるつもりじゃなかったんだけど
Sure you didn't.
じゃあ私
純粋な好意で心配してあげただけなのに
嘘ね
嘘ですね。私もそう思います。
I like that everybody here is not buying what you're saying.
うわ剣道部がグルになっていじめちこうなったら私の味方は
She looked around at all of us coming back to me, leaving the final verdict to the person hanging over my left shoulder. Nami shook her head back and forth in a ticklish motion. Her hair brushing against my cheek was also ticklish.
ナミも味方じゃないわけね
This time she nodded, pressing down on the tip of my shoulder. It seems Migawa really was being assailed from all sides.
用語辞典よスキップよ
Skip scene.
進行上カーソルを合わせると正代が表示されるわよ
Looks like I'm on a different path now.
わあ、見事なシンクロニシティ。
連鎖はするけど同時は珍しいわね
さすがは親子なのですよ。もう。
それほど遅い時間じゃないけどナミはそろそろ寝る時間よね
Now, I could wake up normally even if I went to bed past 1, but before middle school, I'd always gone to bed before midnight. Guessing her age from her appearance, Nami was younger than middle school, so it's probably fine to treat her that way.
私も先に休んでいいですか？
そうねそうしなさい
Her complexion looked better, but she had collapsed once before, during the middle of the day.
ザワッチ、調子悪いの？今は別に悪くはないけど、少し疲れた感じはするかな。
用心に越したことないわ昼にも倒れたばかりだし朝も調子悪かったし
That's right. Yasumi wasn't the only one that wasn't feeling well in the morning.
綾代はどうする
今のところ調子はむしろいい方ですけど
She curved her pointer finger slightly and placed it on her lower lip as she pondered.
悪くないならやりましょうよ。人数減ると盛り上がらないですよ。
そうね。私もそろそろ上がらせてもらうし。
ミギーさん勝ち逃げですか？
悪いわね。
また減ってしまいましたよ。これで姫先輩にまで抜けられたらおしまいです。
じゃあもう少しだけ。
You're a real team player, Aoi Shiro.
無理して付き合う必要ないわよ。
大丈夫ですよ。無理はしてませんから。桃子ちゃん、始めましょうか。
After Nami had fallen asleep, Migawa had left, and Yasumi had also retired. We continued to play cards. And we somehow forgot to stop.
こら、あなたたちまだ寝てないの？幼いさんも部長なんですから。なん
だ、ミギーさんでしたか。
That was mean, Migiwa. But also pretty amusing, so thank you.
結構似てたでしょ。にしても電気がついてると思って来てみれば、あんたたちよくもまあ飽きもせずに延々と。
いや、実は結構飽きてきてる。
All of us nodded in agreement.
ですけど、終わりにしよう終わりにしようって思っても、ついついずるずる続くんですよね。
惰性って怖いですよね。
ところで右は寝てたんじゃなかったの？
ああ、うん。仮眠は取ったよ。
仮眠？
今からちょっと出かけてくるわ。
She stuck out her thumb, pointing outside. In her hand was a bag that resembled that used to carry wooden swords around, though it was somewhat longer. It was probably a bag for carrying around a fishing pole.
今朝と同じ時間に走るんなら、またそのあたりで入れ違いになるんじゃないかしら。
あなたも好きね。
And she was probably pretty poor at fishing too. Since she was out there for that long, she shouldn't have caught nothing.
今夜の私の体にはタンパク質がみなぎってますからガツガツしませんが、ミギーさんは坊主脱出目指して頑張ってください。
面倒な雑魚がかかるよりは坊主の方が楽なんだけどね。じゃちょっくら行ってくるわ。
私たちはそろそろお開きにしましょうか。
Perhaps everyone was in the grip of Morpheus, since there were a few words as we cleaned up and then buried into our futons. It seems quite some time had passed unawares as I looked at Nami's sleeping face.
おはようございます。
おはよう。
From the next room, separated by only a sliding door, I heard the sound of cell phone alarms starting to ring, waking everyone.
おはようございます。
おはよう。で、綾代、今日も？
Her skin was pale, and under the light of morning, she had little vitality.
今日のは単なる寝不足かもしれませんけど、昨べは調子に乗りすぎました。
サワッチは一足先に早寝して正解。そんなに？
あの時は本当に調子は悪くなかったんですけど。
じゃあやっぱり寝てる間に？
Or perhaps she hadn't noticed that she was so tired when we were all having fun. When I asked Aoi Shiro whether or not anything appeared, she shook her head as if trying to use her hair to hide her cheeks.
今日は途中で目が覚めませんでしたから。
出なかったかもしれない。
そうかもしれません。
Anyways, about the long-haired ghost girl, there was no other evidence besides Aoi Shiro's testimony. So for something that's normally not seen, might it not exist at all?
いや、私は何か出たと思いますよ。
その根拠は？
ミギーさんたちとカッパの話をしたじゃないですか。
したわね。
I felt it was more like listening to her talk than having a discussion about it, though.
例の話をすると霊が呼ばれるんですよ。だよね、ザワッチ。
そうだけど
I also heard of that before.
カッパって霊？
I couldn't really explain it well, but I wondered if ghosts and yokai belonged in different categories. I think technically they do.
とりあえずあやしろは今日も休みの手伝いね。
はい
She stopped adjusting her pants, and in a rare move, clenched her fist.
私今日は早寝することを誓います。
あ、うん。だといいね。正常！進行上。カーソルを合わせると章台が表示されるわよ。
Still on this path. Like yesterday, we shouted at appropriate intervals to raise our fighting spirit as we went on our morning run by the beach. Yesterday, the first day, the unfamiliar feel of running on sand was troublesome, but on the second day, I sort of got the knack to it. Besides Momoko and me, there also seemed to be quite a few people who got the hang of it and could talk while running. However, the wind was stronger today, and the ocean breeze made our pants flutter. I wonder
進
though.
行上。カーソルを合わせると章台が表示されるわよ。
Part of me is kind of nervous that maybe I might be making some decisions that'll put me on a different character's route. But at the same time, considering where I am on the flowchart, I find it kind of difficult to believe that I might be. I don't know. But if I somehow feel like I'm on another character's route, I'm gonna just immediately hit the rewind button and get back to a point where I know for sure I'll be on Nami's route. So rest assured, I am not going to just steer the ship to a new path if I suddenly discover I am on one. In addition, a low, eerie noise could be heard.
汽笛の音じゃないですね。
I see. I was wondering what the sound resembled, and like Momoko said, it did sound like a steam whistle. But this was probably not the sound of a steam whistle.
この時期、船は出さないって言ってたしね。
If no boats sail during this time, then we shouldn't hear the sound of a steam whistle. If that was the case, then...
つまり幽霊船がどこかに？
どうしてそうなるのよ。
Even if it were a ghost ship traveling through this wind, the image conjured up was more a sailing vessel than a steam vessel.
にしても、不気。
なかなかのナイスロケーションです。海の彼方より響き渡る謎で奇怪で不気味な音。夜な夜な美女から生気を吸い取る髪の長い女の子の幽霊。そして少女たちが見たものは今夜の肝試しが楽しみです。
Momoko said a line like something from a television special, and forming an unpleasant expression, snickered.
本気でやるの？
やりますよ、やりまくりですよ。青春のページに白紙は許されないのです。
Okay.
まあ、いいけどね。進行上、カーソルを合わせると章台が表示されるわよ。進行上、カーソルを合わせると章台が。
Instead of going back, let's just wait and see.
いくらわしでもさすがに
スキップ。 進行カーソルを合わせると章台が表示されるわよ。
I guess it doesn't necessarily matter. So... You teasing me,
日
Momoko?
頃の恨みを晴らしてやらんとばかりに私をなぶって楽しんでる？
いえいえ、そんなめっそうもない。全く心当たりがないわけでもありませんが、長先輩は尊敬できるいい先輩ですよ。
I somehow didn't like how she said it, like a backhanded compliment.
やっぱりなぶってたのね。
Miguel looked on with amusement at some other person's problems and interrupted.
漢字で書くと男女男。あまりこの場にふさわしい感じじゃないわね。
男はわし一人だけじゃの。
女女女にしてみましょう。
それかしましいだから。
あら、ぴったりじゃないの。
いやいや、ももちーは一人で十分100人力です。
Momoko fell silent. In her place, the decidedly non-rowdy Yasumi looked at me and said,
というわけで、翔子先輩の水着もあるんですけど。
The way Yasumi said that implied that swimsuit should have been prepared for me, but...
進行上カーソルを合わせると章台が表示されるわよ。
Let's go.
その前にもう一点スキップより用語辞
Right
典よ。
here, huh?
進行カーソルを合わせると章台が表示されるわよ。
Looks like my gut instinct proved right. I'm on this path now. The road continued on, and... Though she didn't say anything, I knew that Nami had swallowed her breath.
何？一体どうした？
I heard rustling.
何？
I saw hazy lights floating up within the darkness. They weren't just red, but reflective like a bicycle reflector. What was that? Was that due to them reflecting something or shining themselves?
あれが床先の
In the south forest, the only things I knew were red were the flowers of the Tokosaki no Tsubaki. But weren't those things not in the direction of the road to the Tokosaki no Tsubaki? Astute observation as always. Weren't those red lights off the road in the middle of the darkness? And no matter how virtuous the Tokosaki no Tsubaki was, a tree with its roots planted in the ground wouldn't move, right? The red lights moved closer to us. What exactly were those? The red lights were large red eyes about the size of Nami's palm. The body was not large and unbecoming of those big red eyes. The two large eyes and two large head were unbecoming on its short body, which was bigger than a monkey but smaller than Nami. The head, palms, and legs situated far behind it give an unbalanced look when compared to a person. There were countless numbers of them. We were surrounded by red lights. And then, Nami and I were... Oh, what? That's it? I don't think that this is going to lead to anything differently from this point onward, but I just want to see what this is all about.
用意周到？
Momoko made a pose indicating I was correct.
じいちゃんから聞いたんですよ。最近の流行はこんなこともあろうかとだって。じゃーん、水着ならここに。
She said right here, but when she brought her hands up, they were empty. It wasn't an empty swimsuit made of air that idiots wouldn't be able to see. She just made the motion of taking out a swimsuit for everyone to see. Well, normally no one would be carrying around a swimsuit while eating lunch. That wasn't the problem.
そう言われても私と桃子じゃサイズ違うし。
Whether it was something that Momoko prepared or not, there was no point if I couldn't fit into it.
確かに私は背に比例して胸の方も控えめですから、長先輩と比べるのはおこがましいとは思いますがね。
Mm-hmm. She expounded while placing a hand on her chest as if it hurt.
何もそこまで。かわいそうだけど、あなたの水着が入るわけない。そんなこともわからないなんて、なんてバカな子みたいな目で見なくても。
That was a pretty good Shoko impression, not gonna lie.
いや見てない。
見てませんでしたよね。ももちゃん、被害妄想気味なんじゃ。
Maybe. Objectively speaking, I didn't think of her as pitiful or an idiot.
ちゃんと長先輩用のサイズを用意してきたのに、どうしてここまで言われなくちゃいけないんだろう。
進行状態。カーソルを合わせると章台が表示。
Let's not go.
遠慮しとく。進行状。カーソルを合わせると章台が表示されるわよ。
I think this will put me on a different path, though. Even if I had a swimsuit, Nami didn't have one, so... Ah, then it'd be fine to just go by and buy one for Nami.
では明日の機会があると信じて今日はみんなで買い物に行きましょう。
というわけで町まで出てきたわけですが。
Okay, you know what? I think I'm gonna go ahead and just bring things to an end here. Not quite finding an alternative path towards the end of Nami's route like I was hoping to, but all the same, like I said before, progress is progress, and if I'm seeing something new, then I won't really complain too much. At least this way it'll allow me to get it out of the way sooner rather than later. So we'll get back to the end of Nami's route eventually, and also eventually, I'm sure I'll also find all the correct sequence of choices I gotta make that will allow me to get to Nami's good end. It's only a matter of time. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Aoi Shiro. I was almost about to say Higurashi when they cry. Anyway, if you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I will see you all next time. Take care.